If you're just about to start your own web design agency, then one thing's for sure, you're going to need software. But exactly just what software to use can be a minefield. And if you don't get it right, it could cost you, both financially and in terms of your time and productivity. In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into the entire software market and give you examples of the most popular choices, including how much they each cost, and I'll also let you know which ones I personally use. Hi, thanks for joining. If you're new to this channel, I'm Rich Dean, a web designer and developer, former web agency owner, and author of the book series Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency. My goal is to help anyone looking to start, grow and sell an agency to save time, earn more money, avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls, build a thriving and valuable business. Okay, just before we get into the main topic though, I just want to add a few caveats. First, for any kind of software, there can be lots of options, way too many for me to practically list here. So for each of the different types that we're going to look at, I've just focused on the ones that I think are the most popular or relevant. There will be others, but I can't include all of them, so apologies if I don't include one that you really like. Second, pricing plans can be quite broad too. Again, I can't list every option available, and most plans have monthly or annual options, with annual usually being the cheaper, but I've just listed the starting monthly only prices. I've also listed costs in pounds because I'm in the UK, but you should be able to easily convert them into whatever currency you use. Where the software lists prices in other currencies, I've already done a rough conversion to pounds, so prices may not always be exact to the penny. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into it, starting with number one, productivity. Okay, so productivity software generally means the apps you'll need to run your business on a day-to-day basis. So things like sending emails, creating documents and spreadsheets, and maybe even presentations. Probably the market leader in this category is Microsoft Office 365, though they've just renamed it to Microsoft 365 Copilot. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to keep using Office 365 as that's what most people know it as. It comes with Outlook for email, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and also other tools like Teams and OneDrive, though we'll talk about video conferencing, messaging, and cloud storage separately a bit later. Office 365 is what I use, by the way. It has different plans for personal or business use, but they start at around £4.50 per user per month for business and around £7.50 per month for personal. Then you've also got Google Suite or G Suite, which is Google's version and is also really popular. I know plenty of people who prefer this over Office 365, and it comes with well-known tools like Gmail, Meet, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, and others. Plans start at £4.72 per user per month. Apple also has its own version of most of these tools, though they don't tend to be packaged up as an all-in-one suite like the other two are. But if you've bought a brand new Mac recently, you may already be using tools like Pages, Numbers, Mail, or Keynote. In fact, even though I use Office 365, I actually prefer Apple Numbers and I use it quite a lot. For Apple apps, they usually come pre-bundled on certain Macs, but if you don't already have them, I believe you can download them for free from the Mac App Store. That makes them an attractive choice if you're trying to keep your cost to a minimum. Number two, design. Okay, so our next type of software is for what I would class as pure web design, so just producing layouts like wireframes or visual designs. At the time of recording, I would say that Figma is the most popular, and this is also the one that I use. It's a great piece of software. It's got lots of features, and they're always adding to it. But to be honest, I only really use the design part. They do have a free starter plan, but it's quite limited. And although their paid plans start at £3 per user per month for a collab seat, if you want to use design like I do, you'll need to pay £14 per month. Next up, you have Sketch. Now, I actually used Sketch for many years before I switched to Figma, and it's also the design app that we use when I ran my agency. It's actually very similar to Figma in terms of how it works, but I would say that Figma is just more polished, and Figma has features that just make designing certain elements, especially specifically for web design, a lot easier. Sketch plans start at around £11.40 per month per user though. Now, I'm also going to mention Adobe XD, as I know this is still a really popular choice among many designers, but at the time of recording, it doesn't look like you can still get Adobe XD, as Adobe discontinued it in 2023. I've also deliberately not included Webflow in this section either, because I'm going to talk about that one later on. Number three, development. Okay, before we get into this one, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We're a fairly new channel, so it would really help us if we can get those all-important likes and subscribes up. It won't cost you a thing and it won't take you a second. Okay, back into it. So development software is definitely a rabbit hole, and it's also hugely dependent on what type of development you're going to do. But probably three of the most popular options are Sublime Text, VS Code, and Nova. Sublime Text is pretty much a classic and it's been popular for years. They have a slightly unusual pricing model though, in that you'll pay around £74 for a 3-year license before you'll need to renew. VS Code, or Visual Studio Code, has also become a really popular choice, especially as it's open source, and as far as I can tell, it's also free. Nova by Panic is probably less well known, but it's become quite popular, particularly among Mac developers, as it's Mac specific. It also costs around £74, but this time that's for a 1-year license. Nova is the tool that I personally use, by the way. Number 3, no-code web platforms. If you're not planning to do any development yourself, then you'll probably need a DIY or no-code solution. And again, there are lots to choose from. In fact, it's become quite a saturated market, but probably the most popular here are WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, and Webflow. WordPress is obviously the classic and arguably the world's most popular website platform, depending on what stats you look at. Their DIY version at WordPress.com has lots of options, and their plans start at just £3 per month for a personal website. Wix is a similar setup. They start with a free option and then paid plans start at £9 per month. I'd say that Squarespace is a bit more premium compared to WordPress and Wix, so unsurprisingly their plans are a little bit more expensive, starting at £16 per month. Webflow though is quite a different beast. It's definitely becoming really popular among both designers and developers, but it's kind of a category of its own. Webflow basically works like an end-to-end tool, but it's different to website builders. It starts with visual design, so you can create designs a bit like you do with Figma. It can then turn those designs into front-end code, and it can then also integrate everything with its own CMS. So it's quite different to the other options out there. It has a free starter plan, and then paid plans start at around £13.50 per month. I've not used any of these options, by the way, as I custom develop in WordPress. Number 4, video conferencing. Okay, so if you're running a web design agency, you'll almost certainly need video conferencing software, whether you're having meetings with clients or managing your team. Nowadays, there are probably 3 main choices for this. Teams has become one of the most widely used, probably because it comes bundled with Office 365. You can still buy Teams on its own though, without Office 365, and it starts at £3.10 per month. Then you have Zoom, another really popular option and the default for many people. They have a free option, but it's where meetings are limited to 40 minutes, or their paid plan starts at £13.99 per month. Google Meet is also another popular option, and I think I'm right in saying that it's free to use on its own, or it's included bundled as part of G Suite. What you'll probably find though is that you'll actually need all 3 of these, not necessarily because you personally want to use each one, but because the people you deal with, particularly clients, will have their own preference, so you'll be led by what they want to use. Number 5, cloud storage. If you have a team or want to share files with clients, then you'll almost certainly need some kind of cloud storage solution to sync and share, unless you work in an office where you run a physical server, but that's pretty old school for most businesses these days, and it also doesn't allow sharing. To be honest, even if you work on your own and you won't need to share your files with anybody else, I still say that you should have cloud storage, if only for the peace of mind of having everything backed up. There are probably 4 leaders here though: Dropbox, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, and Apple iCloud Plus. Dropbox has probably been around the longest, and it's still the one that I personally use, and I have done for many years. I did try the others, but I just personally prefer Dropbox, even though it's kind of a standalone solution. Their personal plan starts at £9.99 a month, so great for freelancers, but if you have a team, it's £14.50 per user per month. Then you have Google Drive, which I know is also really popular with a lot of people. Now, the way Google does this is a bit confusing. It looks like you can have a Google One account, which is just a single person account that starts at free and then upgrades from £1.59 per month for increased storage, with higher prices for the more storage you have. Or Drive by itself comes bundled with a G Suite subscription, so not something you can buy on its own. Microsoft OneDrive is kind of similar. It looks like they do a basic free account with 5 gig of storage, but then you'd need to have a proper Office 365 subscription. Apple's iCloud Plus is more of a standalone solution. I think the normal iCloud is free for 5 gig, but the Plus version starts at 99 pence per month for 50 gig and then increases from there. As far as I can see, there doesn't seem to be any kind of team options with iCloud Plus though, so it'll probably only be good for sole freelancers. So the short answer here is that if you already have an Office 365 or G Suite paid subscription and want to save money, you could use the cloud storage solutions that come bundled with them, but treat them as bolt-on extras and perhaps not as comprehensive as something like Dropbox. If you want something more specialist, Dropbox is probably the way to go, and I still really like it, even though I could save money using OneDrive on my Office 365 subscription. Or Apple iCloud may be a good option, but probably only if you work on your own. Number 6, messaging. Messaging apps only really become important if you run a team, or you may occasionally get clients who want to use them to keep in contact, but from my experience that tends to be quite rare. Again, there can be lots of options here, but to keep it simple, I'm going to limit it to the 3 that I think are the most relevant to running a business. You can use Teams, which as we've already covered, comes bundled with Office 365, or you can buy it on its own, so that's a good option if you already have it. You can also use Google Chat, which again comes bundled with G Suite, so is another good value-added option. Then you have Slack, which is a standalone product, but one that has become really popular, particularly with designers and developers. They have a free plan, but paid plans tend to start at £3.50 per month. I work as a freelancer now, so I don't really use messaging apps like this anymore. But when I ran my agency, the 2 main ones we used were Teams and Slack, both of which were really good. Number 7, Adobe Creative Cloud. Okay, so I've put Adobe Creative Cloud into its own category because it's kind of a pretty big ecosystem in itself. Now, I say that Adobe Creative Cloud is kind of like Marmite in that a lot of people like it, but a lot of people probably don't. It's also hard not to use it because it's become such an industry standard. It has a lot of included apps, and obviously some of the big hitters are classics like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. I still find that there are lots of times when I specifically need to use those apps. Photoshop for image editing, Illustrator for vectors, and InDesign in particular for publications like proposal documents. I've tried doing that stuff in other tools like Figma, but it just doesn't do it as well. But if we look at Adobe Creative Cloud purely for web design, it doesn't include many tools now that are specifically for that. We've already mentioned that Adobe XD has been discontinued, which only really leaves Dreamweaver, which is a pretty old school coding app and one that I haven't really used for years. You could design in Photoshop, but you'll get pretty heavy files and it's not really what it's designed for. Adobe Creative Cloud is not cheap either. They have a free trial and you can buy the app separately, but to get the 3 main ones of Photoshop, Illustrator and InDesign, it works out as pretty much the same as the full subscription, which at the time of recording is discounted at £32.66 per month for 3 months, and then goes up to a whopping £66.49 per month for individuals, or £73.33 per month for businesses, and that doesn't even include VAT. Number 8, browsers and testing. Okay, so once you've built your websites, you'll need to test them across browsers to make sure they work okay. Now, depending on how thorough you want to be with this, you could do this for free, or you could pay for a service like BrowserStack. I've used this in the past and it is pretty good, as it allows you to test websites on multiple devices and operating systems. It's also not cheap though. Their plans to just test on desktop browsers start at around £29 per month, but if you want to test on mobile too, it's around £36.60 per month. If you don't want to pay for that, then the good news is that you can download the most popular browsers for free. And this includes big leaders like Chrome, Safari, Edge, Firefox and others, though obviously one of the drawbacks here is that you'll be limited to whatever devices you work on or have available. Number 9, others. Okay, so to finish, I've kind of created this others category, which is a loose collection of other software that you might still need to use depending on your specific type of business. If you're going to host client websites and even your own website, you'll need hosting. But again, this is a huge area, so I'm not going to go into any further detail on this one, apart from to say that I've always been quite a big fan of WP Engine, and I also use a local app to develop sites locally on my Mac. If you're going to use CSS preprocessor languages like Less or Sass, then you may need an app to compile them. I write CSS using Less, and so I use CodeKit to compile. You may also need a standalone FTP client if you want to quickly connect to a web server. I use Transmit for this. If you're doing more advanced development, then you'll probably need a GitHub account. I've always recommended that you track your time and get your team to do this too, and so I use Toggle for this. If you have a lot of new business or sales inquiries, then you'll almost certainly need a sales CRM. I don't do a lot of that anymore, but back when I ran my agency, I used Pipedrive for this. Then lastly, if you manage a team or you have more complex projects, then you'll probably need a proper project management tool. These can range in complexity too, but some of the most popular ones are Trello, Asana, Basecamp, and Jira, among others. Just to say that I don't have any affiliations with any of the software that I mentioned in this video, so I'm not getting paid anything to recommend them. Okay, so hopefully you found this video useful. If you've enjoyed it, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like more tips and insights for how to start your business, check out my book series, Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency, which you can buy from Amazon now, and I'll share a link in the description below. And if you'd like to watch even more informative content, then why not check out this video here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.